Although many women served in the Allied forces of the Second World War, it was only the Soviet Union that employed them as frontline fighters. Over 10 million Russian soldiers took part in the Great Patriotic War, and of them, approximately 800,000 were women. Initially, despite communism being at pains to cast women as equal to men, the women that came forward to defend their country were turned away by the Soviet recruitment officers. However, many women found ingenious ways of ensuring that they made it onto the front lines to fight the German invaders. One of the easiest ways to get to the front was to volunteer as a frontline field medic. Whilst treating the wounded and during counterattacks, the women could take up arms to fight. They became known as Angels of Mercy and were highly respected by the male frontline soldiers. During the war, the Soviet state used medals and recognition for individual acts of bravery, the highest being the Hero of the Soviet Union award. This had been introduced in 1934 to award individuals for great feats of military prowess, and any member of the armed forces were eligible to receive one. Over 11,000 were awarded during the Second World War, with only 95 going to women, 50 of which were posthumous. Of these, only 2 female tank drivers were awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union title. Irina Levchenko was born in the Ukraine in 1924. Her father was Deputy Minister for Transportation under Stalin. However, he was killed as part of Stalin's purges in the 1930s. When war broke out with Germany, Levchenko helped the Soviet Red Cross assisting civilians. Then she went on to serve as a field medic with the 744th Rifle Regiment, and by the May of 1942 had treated and removed 168 wounded soldiers from the battlefield. Having seen tanks in combat, Levchenko was determined to become a driver, and through persistence she convinced the general to allow her to join the 39th Tank Brigade, where she was trained in the use of a T-60 tank. During fighting in the Crimea, she was wounded in the arm and was discharged an invalid. However, she was determined to continue frontline service and pleaded with Lieutenant General Fedorenko to allow her to continue to serve. When he refused, she broke down in tears and didn't stop until the officer gave in. In 1943, she was serving as a communications officer with the 41st Tank Brigade. She was involved with fighting around Smolensk and was wounded when her tank was hit. After a brief spell in hospital, she was back fighting on the 2nd and 3rd Ukrainian fronts and had almost reached Berlin when the war ended in 1945. Levchenko became an engineer of tank troops and finally retired with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. She was also the first Soviet woman to be awarded the Florence Nightingale Medal for her work as a field medic, and in 1965 she was awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union title. She died on the 18th of January 1973. When Maria Oktyabrskaya was born in the Crimean region of the Ukraine, she was one of a family of 10 peasant children. When she later married, she changed her name to celebrate the October Revolution and lived on various military bases with her new husband, who served in the Red Army. Not one to be idle, whilst on base, she learned to use firearms and drive and was also a member of the Military Wives' Councils. During this time, she would also learn nursing. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union, Oktyabrskaya was evacuated to Tomsk in Siberia, far from the fighting. Her husband was killed in Kiev in August of 1941, but Maria was only formed 2 years later. Furious at the news, she sold all of her possessions in order to raise money to buy a tank. She paid for and donated a T-34 to the war effort with the stipulation that she would be the one to drive it. The State Committee for Defence agreed to this as they were aware of the good publicity such an act would have. She was then posted to the 26th Guards Tank Brigade in September of 1943 as a mechanic driver. The 38-year-old named the tank fighting girlfriend, and she was immediately viewed with some scepticism by her male comrades. However, that quickly changed during an attack on the 21st of October when her tank was the first to breach the enemy lines and destroyed several artillery pieces and machine gun nests. In November, she was involved in fighting in the Vitebsk region, where her tank was disabled from a hit on the track. Oktyabrskaya and another crewman jumped out of the vehicle to repair the track under enemy fire. In January of 1944, Oktyabrskaya attacked another enemy position, destroying dugouts, machine gun positions and a self-propelled gun. The tank's track was again hit, and despite being ordered to remain inside, she climbed out to help with the repairing of the track under intense enemy fire. She was hit in the head by shrapnel and fell into a coma, from which she never recovered, dying on the 15th of March. She was awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union title posthumously on the 2nd of August 1944. The Second World War produced many acts of valour and heroism, but some of the bravest were the women awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union title, not only for their acts of bravery, but the difficulties they had in being accepted into the ranks of the Soviet armed forces.